July 2017 edition. Apologize for having to reschedule at the last moment. I hope people were able to join us today who were already planning to attend last week. This is Steve Smith, VLab Director. I'm joined in the VLab studios here in downtown Silver Spring by John Chattel, our VLab Forum Logistics Production Manager. We will begin in a moment with our today's subject. I want to remind everyone that the VLab Forum presentations are recorded and will be uploaded to the VLab Forum website at the conclusion of today's session. Our goal here in the VLab Forum is to provide a venue to discuss R2O in the National Weather Service, looking at projects which are either imminent to be transitioned into operations or maybe a few years out, or even many, many years out for that matter. And with the point to learn about these things ahead of time and be able to inform Weather Service about the potential impacts, what are some of the implications of these new technologies, in some cases sciences, on our operations. So our format is 30 minutes of presentation followed by 30 minutes of Q&A. We ask that you hold your questions till the Q&A portion and use the raise your hand feature at that time, and John Chattel will unmute you so you can ask the question directly to the speaker, or use the chat function if you so choose, in which case John will relay the question on your behalf to the speaker. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to, you go by Andy or Andrew?
Either one.
Either one. All right. Andy Just, who's going to talk to us about the ForecastBuilder, laying a foundation for IDSS by a consistent science-based process. So this is really right in the Weather Ready Nation, Weather Service Evolve wheelhouse, and how we execute this pivot from becoming more efficient in generating the National Weather Service official forecast so as to increase our capacity to provide IDSS and everything involved with that. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to you, Andy. Oh, and Andy, you're with the La Crosse, Wisconsin Forecast Office, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Steve, and thank you, John, for letting us present to your group here. Yeah, and I'll discuss about this ForecastBuilder program, and really, yeah, like you say, it's really part of the. It's funny how it became quickly part of the evolve process. While we started this off as part of a team that I'm on, and then we're like, whoa, this actually has bigger implications. So let me just jump right into it. A little bit of. I kind of need to give you all a little introduction, kind of preludes, if you will, for a few slides here on how we got to the ForecastBuilder program. First is the team that I am on. The team leads are Chuck Greif and Jerry Wiedenfeld, who are also on the call. So I'm delivering it because the main person he's been on, he's in the middle of midnight, and that's kind of rough. Anyway. So the team, we were formed back in 2008, a long time ago, with and we're a nice mix of both NWSDO forecasters and management team members. That mix allows us to really help push initiatives through Central Region, and we answer to this Science Services Division head. And our main two goals are really to promote the development of science-based techniques and tools for GFE, and then to review and recommend policy for creating graded forecasts. And over the years, we've developed a lot of different team values that I think have helped us deliver on a lot of our projects, which then includes like trust, keeping up with communication with the field via surveys, webinars, feedback forms, and lately here too VLab with respect to this ForecastBuilder project. We rapidly respond to issues, try and get updates out, usually on a, can be as much as a monthly basis. And again, we've developed strong working relationships with both Central Region headquarters and NWSDO. So here's kind of a list of various projects that our team has accomplished over the past 8 years, and some of these have had bigger scale implications. The noteworthy one there being our day 4 through 7 policy, where Jerry helped develop a lot of the model blends. I worked on like the smart inits, the two together. Basically, if you think about it, it's kind of like the beginnings of what the current national blend is. And then we went to look at short-term policy updates, or at least a policy to get people more focused in on that, working with WPC on an experiment, and then finally our ForecastBuilder project. So why ForecastBuilder? Well, for forecasters out there, we were given GFE back in about 2000 or so, and here you go, here's GFE, go make a digital forecast out of it, make some grids. And so we were never really given a structured approach. As a result, many forecasters developed different methods. Some that were efficient, others not, some scientifically sound, others not. I mean, you can look at the software collaboration portal, and previously to that, the Smart Tool repository, at all the different things that were being developed to try and move us that way. But even then, they weren't all scientifically valid, or maybe they were just trying to, hey, let's just do this to get this done, kind of thing, but not really efficient. So in the end, the net result has been lost time, frustration, and persistent inconsistencies. And one of the things I did was ask Dave Ruth at MDL for some stats in NDFD, and on the right is stats for snow amount and ice accumulation, which are a pretty good representation of the inconsistencies that we would have with other elements as well, because they all tie into these two elements. And you can see, yeah, there's lots of red on the screen, very bad, especially in the ice accum department, where we were all over the place. And really, from a partner perspective, that is not what we want to see. So as shown in the project's timeline back in 2011 and 12, we developed common starting points via a blend of models for both TAPES 4 through 7 and QPF. That saved time, improved collaboration, consistency, and accuracy. That's for both of those elements, that's true. I mean, we looked at our stats and definitely saw big improvements on consistency, accuracy, and in time savings. But it took us a while to do anything on snow and ice accumulation. There were many reasons. First, we had AWIPS 1 to AWIPS 2. That was a big time sink, especially to keep our blends migrating over. Then we had dual pole training. So really it wasn't until like 2015 where we finally saw an opportunity to do this. And on top of that, we were waiting for tools to mature. We did do some surveys multiple times, and really found that these grids, there were just multiple ways people were creating them, leading to questionable science, and that's the internal and external consistency. So the result is the ForecastBuilder program, and our team, with the support of SSD and the NWSDO, developed this procedure to standardize the production of weather, snow, and ice accumulation grids, and also bringing in the supporting components to meet our team's goals. And really, the team is just really wanting to push this, not just within our own region, which we actually are developing a proposal to take what we've kind of done this past winter and really get it going everywhere. I mean, we kind of have it everywhere in Central Region, but not in the same utility. We're going to get the same utility across the board for the region and really pushing it beyond Central Region. So what is ForecastBuilder? It's a procedure in GFE which employs a streamlined and systematic methodology for developing the forecast. So forecasters work from one end to the other, and everything is in a methodological framework. You need to have this before you can generate that. We also provide a consistent common starting point via a strong initialization scheme based on well-verified blended models. Currently, that's our super blend in Central Region. The goal is to be national blend. we employ sound science in the process to derive snow, ice, and weather grids to ensure internal consistency. And that process is fast. I mean, and even during the experiment itself, it's sped up as we implemented new code. That experiment was, again, for last winter. The robust and comprehensive. I mean, we're bringing in various different, techniques here to derive these grids. And they're obviously, it's a process that is rapidly responsive to forecast changes. So if you need to go in and say your temperatures are increasing quicker than what is in the forecast, you can put those temperatures in there, rerun the process to rederive snow, ice, and weather. So as noted, last winter was a experiment period, and thus, it's developed and tested by field forecasters. Forecasters didn't like something, they responded to us. I mean, over the course of the experiment, we had probably 70 changes or so put into place to help improve it, and it's continuing to evolve as even here as the summer goes on. It's certainly, it's a robust and flexible. We've got us regional developers here responsive, and as in kind of previous slide, I was kind of saying that ideally that us on the grid methodology team are envisioning this to be the national delivery mechanism for the NBM. Not that we completely take the forecaster out of the process. The forecaster is still maintained as the driver of both the forecast and the message. This is not just a fully automated process. The forecaster is still involved, looking for targets of opportunity to help improve things, and that it is especially true in the short-term period of the forecast. Or blend sometimes can have a little issue. Not always, but sometimes. We've had a lot of people help develop and improve the procedure, a lot of collaboration. I've listed some of the teams here, various levels from regional to national teams. In fact, we're now collaborating even more with Western Region zoos, especially in the area of snow level, which is of big importance to them. The procedure the forecast builder has many benefits for forecasters. Certainly the big one, and like I say, you look at the goal, thinking of the goals of the grid team have been increase consistency, increase accuracy, and save time. This procedure allows the forecasters to have more time for IDSS, especially in high impact. I mean, this procedure to derive snow, ice, and weather is highly important especially during high impact winter weather. And you need that time to work on video briefings, etc. So to get that done quickly and easily is definitely needed. Allow more time for situational awareness and also just the general forecast problems of the day. And of course, to have time for training and professional development. As stated here, we improve grid consistency by starting from the consistent and seamless database. You have a common starting point. You got a fresh start every 12 hours to look at, improve on. It's consistent. And then the forecaster, again, remains in control of the grids over the loop and the message that these grids convey. So you look at what the grids are showing, you check to see, hey, does that make sense with what the meteorological situation is suggested by your various of guidance, and then take from that what the message would be, and thus, so again, the forecaster is still in the role here, and we remains a key decision maker to both the national and local collaborative process. What's also nice with the program is that future training is focused and streamlined, and I put a link in here to the training. It's in the presentation. I'm just going to pull that up, and here's basically what the training plan was that we gave to all offices. This training we had a training on the CLC, and then most of this just links to YouTube videos. And so you can see there's various different parts, kind of introduction to what Forecast Builder is, and we have in here some recent changes that we've made over the course of the winter. You have your science, some navology things, as well as various scenarios to work through, and finally some job sheets. So let me go back into the presentation here. Yes, it automatically ensures the meteorological forecast integrity of the database. There's checks that go in along the way, and a lot of those checks are just part of, hey, I do my temperature, I do some stuff with the top down. I'll show you the process here in a minute, and then it will check everything to make sure that's okay, and then generate your snow and ice and down the chain. This approach allows the forecasters to share experiences, science, and techniques. And we put in like a different technique dealing with pop in there. We put at least the generation, I think, of weather in that. We've got techniques in there for snow level. We got techniques in there from there's many different things. I would say we put in a new frost study that came out of the University of Kentucky. So it's a great way to get all this stuff just all into one process, one project. And because of that you have this one project contained, allows for improvements to be instantly spread to all offices upon installation. And the installation process is pretty quick and easy. We've done a lot of work in that arena. And one of the problems that you would have with backup of another office is like, what procedures or tools do they use? Or you move to the other office and like, what do I use now? How do I do this? Well, ForecastBuilder is everywhere in the region, at least if you're moving to one of those offices, so you know what to do. So how the evolution works for ForecastBuilder here. We've got a lot of different things on the screen here, but basically here, the methodology is basically designed to evolve and improve with new techniques and scientific findings. Like, for example, we have the freeze and rain accumulation model is what we use for ISACUM. If something was to become better than that, we can easily adjust that code. We're always responsive to feedback and suggestions. We'll show you towards the end of the presentation. I'll show you some of at least the VLab Forum stuff there. And again, this process being maintained by the grid team as a means of science sharing. That's something that grows. So how the methodology works, there's about a 5 to 6 step process here. But really the big chunk of the work is contained within the first 2 steps, and during the summer months it's even really just the first step. The foundation grid step here is really your common weather elements: temperatures, wind, sky, pop, things like that. Then when you get into winter weather situations, there's these top-down grids available, basically environment things. Are you dealing with a warm layer aloft? Do you have ice in the clouds to allow for a, say a snow type at the surface, or is it going to be more of a freeze and drizzle, freeze and rain situation? Are the roads going to be a potential impact? And really, all these items here that I've shown in yellow are ones that can be that will be initialized by a cron process. Basically, it's bringing in stuff from SuperBlend and in the future NBM and putting it into your forecast, and then from there be edited. So this side stuff on the left is really where the biggest forecaster intervention takes place. From there, you generate the precipitation types, accumulation grids, and there's some integrity checks. This whole process is completely derived. No editing is needed, nice and easy. You get a snow amount, you get an ISACUM, you get a sleet amount, if you're curious on the amount of sleet. From there, there's this non-precipitation type step. You might have to do a little edit in here, but it's usually not too significant. And then finally, the generation of the weather grid. And something new here that we're working on in Central Region as of this spring, summer has been this project called Hazard Builder, kind of an extension, if you will, of ForecastBuilder. I won't go into too much detail on that project right now with the Hazard Builder, but just want to let you know that it's there. So let me demo the actual ForecastBuilder process, what you would see as if you open up GFE, open up the procedure from a forecaster point of view. I will say that this is the current GUI format. What we developed within the, I'll call it the simple GFE GUI structure. There's a different GUI structure that you have to actually define using a different program, and we're hoping to work with GSD on that. So for this first GUI here, it's kind of simple. It's just what time period do you want to work on? You can see that there's an 18Z TAF shown. This is ForecastBuilder can also go through and do digital aviation stuff for you as well. So you choose your time period, jump in here, and you can go through and do your foundation grids. Like I say, there's a cron process that runs twice a day to put stuff in. If you weren't running the cron, you can go into here and choose grids to plop in. Say I want to bring in the super blend, the short blend for a certain element. But you can see here in the GUI, there's various different data sets that get loaded into your forecast to give you a starting point. You don't have to do it, but it's something that if you want to do it, that's there for you. This step is the one, because so much stuff that later on in the process depends on this. This is where the forecasters need to spend their time and their collaboration, get these right, and then they can move on. Again, and the approach that we like to take is look for targets of opportunity. Look for when something is going to be outside the range of what a blend would give you. An excessive heat event, extreme cold, a heavy precipitation event, something like that. From there, you click OK. It jumps into this top-down process. The top-down process is only needed for situations where you're going to deal with freezing rain, sleet, or this what's called a really cold, kind of a really cold rain. Still rain, but it's just, it's like 34 outside, and you're getting this rain falling. It's going to be, this step will be skipped. If it's, like I say here in the summertime, you're not going to see this, at least here out in east of the Rockies. In the Rockies, and they can almost have this step all the time because of the mountain peaks. There's a lot of different models being incorporated for this. There's so you have at least something to start off with. Love to have the European in there, but the European's doesn't have enough vertical levels. And then we have a top-down training module for this on how this all comes together. So you've done the foundation top-down. Now it's all just working through the precipitation types. Again, this is a derived step. Background science and statistics will go through and generate what should the probability of precipitation be for, say, rain or for snow or for sleet, based on what you put in those past two steps. And then again, generate the snow and ice accumulation. If what comes out you don't want and you don't like it, then you just go back and collaboratively change one of the previous two steps. For example, maybe my snow amount was too heavy. I could go back and make my snow ratio lower, make it more like of a 7-to-1 or something like that. I'm just throwing something out there. Say it was like 10-to-1, make it 7-to-1. A little wetter snow. That might be something that you would do. And then this step, as you go into it, will also do things like update a parent T, do checks for dew point RH, check your temperatures, things of that nature, because you want to make sure that that's all checked before you generate snow and ice. It's sort of the quote-unquote finalized procedure that a lot of offices would run. So after that, then there's a step on non-precipitation types, things like the fog and frost, thunder. There are various tools put into here to help you with that. For example, there's a science-based study in there for snow. We're using these, still trying to figure out how exactly, but we're using these calibrated thunderstorm probabilities for thunder, which that alone has all these, has science and statistics built in. That's courtesy of SPC. And this is an area that over time expect more field-driven improvements to help help these tools out. And then finally, we go through and update the weather grids. And there's a bunch of different things on here. 95% of the time, you just run it. It's a bigger GUI than really what it seems. There's different things in there for convective watches, so that if you wanted to, you get a tornado watch for the western portion of your area, you got that in your hazard grid. It's gonna put the, like in this case with the default, it's gonna put tornado, large hail, and damage and wind along with the T+ into your weather grid for the purposes of really for point and click. Weather intensities are derived from QPF and snow amount, so that's nice. So you don't, one forecaster thinks, oh, this should be a light QPF, this should be a moderate, oh, this should be a high. That's all resolved. That's a quick consistency issue, kind of low-hanging fruit one resolved. And again, all these options provide at least some level of flexibility control before you get the weather grid created. So as I already kind of showed you for this process, there's a decent amount of training provided. And we've got a variety of different peer-reviewed scientific techniques on snow ratio, the FREM ice accumulation model, as well as the top-down approach for forecasting precipitation type. We also have some videos on how to use ForecastBuilder, ways to improve on consensus. There's a variety of winter weather training here too, both some job sheets as I showed you, and then also a pseudo wet simulation using a service backup of La Crosse here in practice mode. It was kind of our way to figure out something in lieu of the West 2, which is still GFE is under development with their next build. So also in terms of the support, it's 24/7. I mean, you have VLab, the CRGMAT chat room, as well as the CRROC in terms of here for the regional wise for collaboration assistance. Back to VLab, when somebody submits something through the forum, a variety of us on the team get an email, and then one of us will respond. I know that when we first started this up in October of 2016, I was even doing emails like in the middle of the night because I was like, I want to make this succeed and answering questions. So those first 2 months were a little crazy, getting everybody on board, making changes, getting everything set. But it was all good. Now in terms of the process and how this worked here in Central Region during the experiment. So we have this. Actually, I should change this to say period 3 through day 7. There's a cron that's set up at all offices here in Central Region, including and the test beds specifically. Twice a day, it would be initialized, populating these what's considered foundation grids and some of the top downs as well, and then it would go through and derive out the snow and ice accumulation there too through day 3. You would collaborate those, modify them as needed to all the foundation grids, use the ForecastBuilder program to produce snow and ice, which again, as I mentioned, incorporates the FRAM. And then the test bed offices, which I will show you on a map, would adjust the top down and create the weather grids via ForecastBuilder. It should be noted that as the experiment went on, more and more offices joined into the idea of let's just go through the whole process and create the weather grid. So here are some maps when we first started, or close to when we first started here, late 2016. On the left, you can see there were quite a few offices using what was considered a light version. All the light version did would be the foundation grids. It would do the top down in the background, and then you would generate the snow ice, and that was it. You would use your own weather tool to generate weather. But yeah, by the time we got to the spring of 2017, here most offices were moved over outside of the mountain offices, which were kind of exempt from this process. But again, the plan is here as we go into the fall this year to join them, for them to join in to the full version. Some quick consistency stats. here, ran these through again. These are so October through March. Actually, this should be changed through March because these were basically the same through that period. You'll see that Central Region led in all three categories, just a smidge higher than Eastern Region with respect to snow amount, but still big improvement for especially in ice accumulation and nearly perfect consistency on QPF. How the test bed offices thought on the satisfaction here for the weather grids, and you'll see actually this is common for a couple of slides that as you went on through the people got more comfortable with the program itself, and even the weather grid we put some enhancements in late December, and you saw this all go up to be much positive, very, very positive by the time you got to the end of the experiment. The snow ice kind of had a little bit of a dip there as you get into December, and I think we've kind of rectified a lot of those issues. We were having to do some adjustments with the FRAM, coordinate with the authors, and got that all resolved so that by the time you got to February and March, things were much more improved. Did it create your forecast in a short amount of time? As you can see, same here. People got more used to the process. Again, basically took a winter season to get everybody used to it. Didn't make collaboration easier. Definitely, again, same trend. Increase over time. People knew what to expect, things like that. So as far as where we're heading here with the Forecast Builder, I'm actually almost done here with the presentation. Big thing is to get the full Forecast Builder out across all Central Region. I think that one's probably going to be a go. No problem even through the RRLC. Switching the national blend is a bigger deal. That's going to take a little bit. That's going to take a little bit of work. It's that simple. It is pretty, and technically it's pretty easy. It's just basically changing a line of code, but operationally it's a different deal. Then there's the enhanced short-term forecast, which we want to reinvigorate, to get people more involved with that, as well as to make some additions and add to the finalized process that's involved, in incorporating some more fire weather into there, for example. And that's too listed here on this next slide with fire weather grid creation. Want to get that in there. We have a tool out there called Model Certainty, is kind of a target opportunity thing. The Hazard Builder program, again, not saying much anything, but it can be used as a target opportunity. We kind of want to combine those and make it into some kind of a binder program. We want to encourage, again, further expansion beyond Central Region for the Forecast Builder, which back in April I went out to Western Region. They're on board. And then also there's this, and I think that's almost going to basically become mandatory anyway, but we have it on there, is get this hazard simplification WSW, which can use some of the Forecast Builder grids that it produces to help in developing the first start for that. So where you can find us on VLab, have the web address listed there up the top. Here's how we've laid out the site, at least the main page. Lots of links on there for forecasters to reference, between various one-pager cheat sheets, FAQs, which we've updated through the winter season. And the big one would be the forum link there, which is I've shown just an example of a quick screenshot of the forum of different things that people posted. This was definitely very active during the experiment, even more so during the first couple months, until people really got used to what it showed. And with that, I will open this up to questions.
Okay, thanks, Andy, very much. Very thought-provoking presentation there. So, so at this point, we invite people who are on the webinar to use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to ask a question, or the chat feature, and John will unmute you. Do we have any hands raised yet?
Doesn't look like it.
Not yet. Okay.
I have a question for Andy.
Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, Andy, it's Phil Schaefer.
Hey, Phil.
How you doing? Hey, you mentioned you had to make some changes to the FRAM ice accumulation over the winter. Did MDL get those changes?
Yep, you all have them.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Yeah, there were changes, I think, in early December.
Okay.
Yep.
I see Dave Riddell, hand raised. Don't make him present. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, this is Ken Johnson. Dave is dialed in here for us. Yeah, Andy, thanks for the presentation. Fairly well-rounded presentation. Couple questions. First, are you all at the point where you can kind of quantitatively say what kind of time savings your forecasters are experiencing with this?
You know, that's actually I would say that's tough to do. We try to use the survey. We had the test bed offices were asked to basically try and provide as much surveys as possible, especially during high impact weather events, even though that we know that during those times it can be hard to even go in and fill a survey. So we try to ask them to do that. So that's why we kind of went to those general questions. I don't know that we actually had any quantifiable numbers, but again, surveys seem to bear that out, that there was a time savings.
Yeah, probably difficult when you want them to record stuff as the time they're the busiest.
Yeah.
And second question is, you mentioned targets of opportunity there. I guess you called it a finder or something. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what your thinking is there?
Yeah. So I can actually do some of this right from this one, the finishing slide here. In the center of this is the Hazard Builder project. You can see the various different things that are highlighted, and these highlights reflect, like, for example, fire weather, frost freeze, ice accumulation, non-thunderstorm wind. And so immediately that kind of draws your eye to what time periods should I as a forecaster pay extra special attention to. And some of these elements are obviously, you know, hey, if I got frost freeze highlighted, for example, you know, that's mostly a temperature deal. I mean, there could be a few other grids, but that's your big thing. The other side of the coin is this model certainty procedure or tool that Jerry developed, and what it does is allows the forecaster to quickly see how much spread do I have in the guidance from the output. I mean, you as a forecaster, I mean, if you have 4-panel or 9-panel procedure in D2D or something, can get a general sense of, okay, here's a time period that's going to have a lot of spread. This procedure will give you the actual numbers and, okay, where's the biggest spread? What's the high and low points, max min, things like various statistical measures, really. So I mean, the end goal here is really to wrap the two up together, and you could end up with a finder that would say, hey, I've got these grids here show the biggest spread. I mean, I think that's where you as a forecaster can go in and try to make an improvement. I think especially in the short term, if there's a lot of spread in something, whereas, you know, farther out, it may still be difficult. Sorry for the long-winded answer there, but hopefully that satisfies your question. And I mean, Jerry can add anything if he's on.
Yeah, I'm on. So yeah, and like Andy was saying, it's really combining model certainty and hazard builder. So basically, it's saying that if you have a hazard and you have high uncertainty, that is a grid of which we should be paying our attention to. And, you know, the model certainty sort of starts getting less important as you get out into the days 4 through 7. And then we're just looking at really high impactful grids that would be coming out of Hazard Builder. So really when we're talking about like a target of opportunity finder, the main concern is, you know, days 1 through 3. And if you have model uncertainty as well as a hazard. In the downside with this model certainty tool is right now we're not getting probabilistic information from the national blend. So this tool is being designed from the grids that we have currently in GFE. So, all of the model grids that gets thrown into this, and then you end up with the sort of certainty information from there. So just a little bit of extra info.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions in the room or on the, do we have any? If you're, folks, if you're on the webinar and like to ask a question, please raise your hand with the raise your hand feature. So, Andy, what are the next steps for this project? What's on the, what will you be working on in the next fiscal year?
In the next fiscal year, most of it's going to be on, again, getting all of our central region on the call it this full version. I don't want to dwell too much into the full and light. Really, it's just get everybody onto the same process, and that includes our mountain offices, which is going to be fantastic to get them. And I think we're kind of working with our mountain offices at the same rate that we are with our with Western region. So, having them both on board in the process, expanding it further out. I mean, we do have one office in the Eastern region that's using this, and we kind of got lucky too. I mean, we had the Montana offices in Western region also kind of involved in this project during this past winter, so they could kind of get some feels about what do we need to do differently to help make this happen across the rest of Western region. I mean, the more that we can expand it, the better. Get more feedback, get more science tools, because that's my vision has always been is that I think forecaster experience from Miami could help those in Seattle, and vice versa, all the way across the country in some way, shape, or form. That's what I view this as. And then switching over to the national blend is a big one. And then using the forecast builder in the enhanced short-term forecast process, coinciding with digital aviation, getting that at least in central region, if not farther out.
I think. Go ahead.
All right.
No, I was just going to say, one of your slides, I think I saw something with an interaction with WPC. Am I correct? And what is that interaction?
We had, I will say back in 2015, we did an experiment with 2015, 2016 winter. We did an experiment with that, using like about 40% of WPC QPF in the process of developing and then having basically a cron-based process to have QPF populated into our forecast to help improve our QPF consistency. And I think, and we definitely did improve the consistency. I think it went up to, I don't remember what it was at the time, if it was in the 90, might have been like 93 or 94, somewhere around there. And then it further increased when we went to the forecast builder process. And so we are on the grid, on our central region grid team, we are talking with WPC in the process on how to get them involved. I think underneath the plan that we have here going forward with the full forecast builder version, we'll be able to return to have WPC, I think, involved within the QPF process again, because we did go through some verification and find that, or actually WPC did this and found that, especially in the higher precipitation events, the WPC performed better for those. So hopefully bringing those in the process will help. And then we'll have to think. We're still kind of scratching our heads, both of us, the WPC and our grid team, and how this is all going to change with the national blend.
Okay. Another question I had was on the types of quality control checks. that you've got in place? I know that's sort of like a never-ending task, but can you elaborate on that? I mean, is that something that you get suggestions and you incorporate them into the software, or how have you handled that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at, are you talking like things like the apparent temperature or checking temperature, dew point, wind, or are you talking other things? Or okay, yeah, because I was gonna say there's other things too when we get these new ideas come through and make sure that they're tested well before they're disseminated to the field. But yeah, I mean, so there's the first thing that's done is basically the baseline check temperature, dew point, wind procedure, but I had to embed it within ForecastBuilder because of some issues that I was running into. So yeah, it's making sure that the temperatures aren't exceeding the highs or going below the lows, checking, make sure dew points aren't greater than the temperature, making sure the wind gusts are greater than or equal to the wind. In fact, beyond that, there are some little bit of scientific checks going on with the wind gusts to make sure that they're greater than or equal to, I can't remember the exact specifics, but there's some science stuff I think going on with the wind gust. Yeah, then derives out the apparent temperatures, derives out the RHs. Some offices do RH and then create the dew point from that. So there's configuration in ForecastBuilder to handle that situation. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I have as the integrity check right now. I think, I mean, there's things like, creating your max and min RHs, I know for some offices need those dew point afternoon, dew point morning grids. Those get generated.
What about winds?
What's that?
Winds, do you have any checks on wind direction and speed?
Just wind gust and wind gust to comparison to wind speed.
Okay.
It's like an area that even more more different things could be added.
And so it looks like you've done a good job in bringing up Central Region to embrace this, but what's been the major source of pushback in adopting the ForecastBuilder?
I think on the national level, the big one is the common starting point. There's I mean, for us in Central, I'd say we had our own issues with using a common starting point back in 2011. We ran a test bed of we had 3 groups, one in the Midwest, one in the Plains, and one in the mountains. A group, groups of 4 offices ran through a test. And then for a year, and then went through surveys, interviewed each office, and and really all the offices basically said it was a good thing to go for. I mean, mountains had still some issues, so that's why mountains. But mountains were fine to do it for at least a 4 through 7. They weren't comfortable to do it anything beyond, earlier in the forecast. Rest of us were all fine. So anyway, we did in 2012, did it everywhere for 4 through 7. But that concept of blowing away the forecaster's previous forecast, all the work that they put in, and putting in the new model guidance is kind of it takes a little bit of a leap for forecasters.
I see. Okay, so all right. Now I get it. Yeah, that's the rub.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, there is the cron process to this that, we call it the ForecastBuilder cron. You don't have to have that running. You could still run ForecastBuilder, and you could choose those grids. You can initialize them from Super Blend. In fact, one of the things we did do with this project to get people kind of acclimated to how it would feel is you can run the ForecastBuilder cron process just into your practice GFE database, and that's actually what Western Region I think is doing it with their install. That they just click, they have that set up to output to practice database, they can pull up the GFE practice mode and see twice a day it populating in there and see what they're going to get.
All right. Well, thanks for that elaboration. Now I get it. Okay. Other questions?
I was just curious, how do you manage your software? Do you use the VLab for that, or is that done by some other means?
Yeah, right now it's on the software collaboration portal underneath our CRGFE tools package. We are anticipating here, we'll probably do it next year to move it into its own self-contained package, but right now there's a lot of kind of dependencies because it's basically once we switch over to the national blend, then we'll have its own package. But right now it relies on various different things like the super blend, bias correction, things like that.
Okay. One other question. So the forecaster is using this tool and they're worried about a particular grid and they want to know what tools have been used to manipulate that grid prior to their seeing it. Is there a way they can easily do that?
Not for knowing like what tools were used for a grid. No, unless that was passed along via some via some note or something like that. But you bring up a good question, and we on this, and we developed and it was passed out in the April note, a little procedure. It was kind of a one that you could like compare the previous forecast to that of what was just loaded and find anything that was significantly different for like high temperatures or POPs or QPF, and so you might be able to see which ones that you might have to do a little more work on. But I do know that from surveys and that people would leave a note maybe for the next forecaster. Hey, I did this to this grid. I used like some blend of these elements, or I raised it 5 degrees because it's been constantly underdoing the forecast because of issues with bias correction, just for example.
All right, thanks.
And I will note that the software collaboration portal was migrated to VLab. So if you're in there, you are in the VLab actually. So that's
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other? So just the other thing that I was curious, Andy, you mentioned this. I think it was in the context again of the term target of opportunity, but you said something like. For extreme events, I think it was that's where you were trying to, because the blend may blend out some of that. So you hope the forecast builder to create this space or encourage people to do something at some point in that situation. Did I get that right?
That is correct. People actually on our VLab have posted some presentations. Like high wind events that have impacted Colorado and Wyoming, where they make improvements in that. We just had actually one out of St. Louis post about they've had some excessive heat lately, and they noted that the bias correction was pulling down the super blend high temperatures, and so super blend was not doing as well as either the national blend or WPC, just a smidge under for both. But even for both of those, they were still underdoing what was coming out. And so again, these are those high impact opportunities. You might, forecasters, maybe they might use like there's that NAIFS probability, anomaly table that's produced that you could go around and see, hey, I got an 850 anomaly of like 2.5 or 3 standard deviations above normal. I better make sure that I've got really warm high temperatures with respect to normal. And
right. Well, so that's great. So the forecast builder is constructed so that you can you direct people to effectively deviate from all this blended national whatever guidance. I'm kind of mashing that together. And insert their expertise where it is needed. That's an important point. that you're not automating everything and streamlining it. There's more than enough opportunity to do and correct where it's needed.
Yeah, it's kind of like let the blends grab the low-hanging fruit, and even give you a good first start on those higher impact events, and then you go into those high impact events and further evaluate those. If a winter storm's coming through, make sure the QPF is good and the snow ratio is good and the warm layer is where it needs to be and things like that.
Okay, great. So we got one last question from Dr. Bob Glahn. You get a Dr. Bob Glahn question. Go ahead, Bob.
All right. When you make these corrections to either the blend or the super blend, how important is it that the input there is consistent? In other words, the way I understand it, if a model doesn't come in time, then you get the blend without that model. Presumably, this kind of changes things over time and so forth, and I imagine that happens with the super blend also. How important is that? Do you understand my question?
Oh yeah, to understand like as models improve, I know, because I think we as forecasters, you would learn these persistent biases of the models of where they could go wrong. I think, are you kind of going on this vein, and then you would go, but now, in the blends, some of those get automatically ingested, but then maybe at some point those biases go away and you have to react differently. That's something, I think that's one of those there's going to be some kind of an experience learning through time of operating with blends.
Well, that's true with your super blend also, right?
Yep, super blend. So yeah, we like. I don't know if this is a great example or not. We had something that's been always annoying has been, especially for the Great Lakes offices, have been lake effect, and our super blend had persistently been too low with those probabilities, because most of the probabilities have been generated just based off QPF, and then when your QPF for lake effect is only a couple hundredths, it can't really generate a high enough pop. And so there's been various techniques added. There's been a smart enough thing to improve the pop. During the winter months of the experiment, went through and Jerry coded up a neighborhood pop technique very similar to what's in the national blend to help improve that. And that seemed to help to some degree anyway. There's still work to be done there. But I know that even outside of the lakes, that neighborhood pop thing was definitely a big help, and we saw a little bit in the verification that, because we stratiform precipitation during the winter months, the super blend had a low bias, and we needed to bring those up. May have gotten a little off track off of the initial question, but I don't know if that helps.
Yep.
Unless if Jerry, you have any comments.
All righty. So that's going to have to be the end of it for today. I want to thank again our speaker, Andy Just, and his collaborators, Chuck Grief and Jerry Weidenfeld. This is great stuff. Really appreciate you going to the effort to, move this through Central Region, work in the VLab so that other people can benefit and know about it, and taking the time to put together this really good and outstanding presentation. And just a reminder, the whole thing will be uploaded to the VLab Forum so you can share it with your friends and colleagues. And coming up in the month of August, we got to talk on August 16th, precipitation rate estimation based on specific attenuation by Stephen Cox. And in September, the fee hazard services tool by Tracy Hansen of GSD and Greg Stump of MDL. So thanks everyone, signing off.